Tēnā koe te whare. Tēnā koutou te whānau te paramata. Kia ora mai tātou, tēnā tātou katoa. Members, when we adjourned for the evening meal break, the Honourable Judith Collins was speaking. She has 6 minutes and 30 seconds remaining to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Judith Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yeah, that little break can actually stop the flow, but let's get back into it. I was speaking, I think, from memory, about visiting some of our two women's prisons and realising after discussing some matters with some of the prison staff as well as the prisoners that actually what we had in general, and obviously there are always exceptions, are some of the most abused women in the country. And they're abused because the vast majority of them are gang women and they live in a culture of abuse. And when we look at, yes, some of them have gone on to commit dreadful crimes against their own children, and some of them have been involved in the methamphetamine trade, and they are not there just because they were abused. They're actually there because they've committed very serious crimes. But there is a huge relationship between abuse of children and those children choosing at a later stage to go on and abuse others. And that is not to say for a moment that all people who are abused or children who are abused or victims are going to then become perpetrators, but there is a very serious, let's say, there's a very serious connection between abuse and that person going on to become an abuser. And I think one of the issues that we've learnt is that abuse of children, abuse of people can lead to trauma. And if it's not recognised as a trauma and it's treated, well, this is what happens in this family, this is what we do, I know, let's put them back with the grandparent, who, by the way, used to abuse the parent, we are going to continue to have kids being killed in their own homes. And my electorate in Papakura, we are a very diverse electorate. There's a lot of gangs, there's a lot of really great people, there's a lot of every mixture you could think of. But what I also know too is that there are some kids who never get a chance. And they never get a chance in life because their own families are so dysfunctional that dysfunctional is simply a word, is basically a platitude, because they are so bad that their kids, home for them is the least safe place that they can ever be. There's a reason that these kids are out in the street at 2 in the morning, as 9-year-olds and whatever, primarily because home is so unsafe. It's not because mum and dad are at work, it's not because something's happening there, it's because home is unsafe. And that is what we're dealing with. So when Anne Tolley and I today were discussing and announcing some of the initiatives being put together and announced on the gang initiatives, it is not about cracking down, it's not about banning, it's not about whatever, it's actually about these kids. If we can try and stop these kids being abused, if we can try and stop some of those behaviours, we will actually make a difference when it comes to those kids growing up, becoming violent, angry people, but mostly angry men, and going on to commit further acts of violence. So I also heard tonight that someone said, methamphetamine's not a problem now. Piffle. 2015, last year, 334.3 kilograms seized by Customs and Police. That's 3 times more than the year before, in 2014, where it was 98.8 kilograms. We've got a big problem here, and this trade is being fuelled by and fuels gang activity. And in prisons, say, this is more dangerous now for staff because gangs are now working together, and they're working together against correction staff. So what I would say to this House is, we've done really well in the law and order area as a government. We've done great work. Our agencies have worked together. We've worked together for some common goals for the people. But I'd also say we've got a long way yet to go, and we have not solved the problem, and we will not solve it until kids can be safe in their own homes, and men and women can be safe in their own homes. And that is a really sad thing to have to admit, is that we have kids growing up in homes where there is no such thing as safety. Unless dad or mum's partner is actually put in jail, that's the best that we can do for some kids. and that's just not good enough. So we do have a big issue there, and we are taking steps to address it. But you know, Mr. Speaker, we've dealt with issues before that have been hard. When we first came into government, illegal street racing was a big issue. In 2009, we had 6 people died, 49 people were injured, and a total of 69 crashes involving illegal street racing. We brought in the laws around vehicle confiscation and crushing. 2014, there were no deaths, 23 injuries, and 33 total crashes for it. This problem has been hit on the head. Yes, it still occurs, but nothing like it did. And I'd love us to be able to say as a parliament that we took some steps one day and we actually sorted out family violence in this country. It's a big ask. It's not easy. If it was easy, it would have been done. It's a really hard job, and I'd like us all to work together on it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.